One of the major problems I find with either sunrise or sunset images is the fact that you never ever record what you think you should have recorded. The sky never looks right, the ground is too dark, and that's because you're asking the camera to do too much. The sky is very bright because the sun is still shining on that, illuminating that. The ground is very dark because it's no longer shining on the ground. So you end up with an image a bit like this. The ground has almost disappeared. The sky is bright, but it doesn't have any of the colour because it's slightly washed out, because the camera's tried to even out everything in the image to try and give you something that is usable. This is where Lightroom really comes in, because there's much we can do to regain some of the things that have basically been lost. One of the things you must remember with images is that in the highlight areas, like the sky up here, you can lose a lot of detail and it doesn't actually get recorded, because in these very bright areas it's been completely burnt out. There is no detail in there. However, we can bring back some of it in other places. The opposite is true down here in the shadowed foreground. Down here the detail is still there. The detail hasn't gone anywhere at all. It's just very dark and you can't see it. So what we're going to try and do is we've got to try and reclaim both. We've got to reclaim some of the sky, bring the darkness down a bit, claim some of the colour, and down here at least show us what the hell we're looking at, because it's very difficult to see. Over on the right hand side over here we have the tools that we're going to use for this process, and we're going to start at the top here. At the top you have a histogram. Now, for an image to be correctly exposed, it should be completely going from white at this end to the black at this end. And as you can see, we've virtually got that, but the image isn't what we want it to look like. So now we've got to do something to help with that. Now we could bring down the exposure here over on the right hand side to bring the sky down, but that will make the base here, the foreground, even darker. So we try a different tack, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring down the highlights all the way down. What that does is, as you will notice, as I take it up and down, it brings back as much of the detail as we can possibly get in the highlight areas, but it's made the sky quite dark. Now what we're going to do, we need to get as much detail as we can in the shadow areas. So instead of going to the left, we take that to the right. So we just click on it and drag it all the way to the right. That gives us maximum amount of detail in the shadows, and we've now got maximum amount of detail in the sky. Problem is, it doesn't look very good because it's very flat, no contrast at all. But we'll bring that back in by using, over here on the right again, the black and the white slider. Now as you can see, what's happened now, because of what we've done, the histogram no longer goes into the blacks and it no longer goes into the whites. There's a gap. We need to get rid of that gap. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the black slider, click on it and drag it to the left until let go too quickly. So we've now got some in the black, and you can see that we've now got black in this image. We now need white in the top. So we do exactly the opposite on the whites. We click on the white and we drag it until too far. That's it, until we go far enough that we've now got a full span of tones across the image. That's helped the picture quite a bit, because if we go back to the beginning in the history panel over here on the left, we can see that's what we've done. We did the highlights, we did the shadows, we did the black, we did the white, and that's given us a much better image, but we still got very little in the way of colour or anything like that. So now we're going to come down back over on the right here again to the presence. We're going to go to clarity, and we're going to bump the clarity up. Now clarity is it's not like, it is contrast, but it's a different sort of form of contrast. It's more definition. It gives more definition to things by using the contrast in a much more amenable way. So I'll come up to about third of the way along and click it, and you can see what's happened. It's given us much more detail in the sky. If I come back over to the history palette and go back to the white, you can see it's flat, and now it's given us a lot more detail. Now we need some colour in the sky, so we're going to go to the vibrance slider, not the saturation. The saturation's a bit crude, it's awful. We don't want to do that, so we take that back to naught. But the vibrance just helps it a little bit, not too much. So we're going to take it up to, let's take it up to about the same sort of figure as what that one is. No, a little bit more than that, I think. Okay. Now, we've got a better overall picture now, I think you'll agree. We're going from that, we're going to that. It looks better, but it's still not brilliant. We could still do with some more detail in the sky. I could do with some more colour up here as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to apply what I'm going to do next to the sky, and then after that we'll deal with the foreground down here. So going up to the sky, up in the top here underneath the histogram, you see we've got a number of tools. We won't bother with any of those at the moment. We just come across to this one, which is the adjustment brush. Now when we come across, you can see it gives us two circles. The inner circle is the one that will be affected. The outer circle shows you the feather. In other words, the amount of drop off from the inner circle to nothing on around the outside. We can adjust that with the scroll wheel on our mouse. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the sky. I'm going to click on the sky, and you'll see we've got a dot. That dot in the middle shows us that this is active. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to drop the exposure just a little, not much, just a little bit, and then I'm going to bring up the clarity. And by doing these two, I think you'll see that what's going to happen is we're going to increase the colours in the sky. Now it doesn't matter if it's too much, we can always take it back later. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over the exposure with my mouse so that the actual word is highlighted, and then I can use the up and down keys on the PC to increase or decrease the exposure. And I want to increase it slightly, that's a little bit too much, so I'm going to take it back up a bit, and I quite like that. So that's not too bad at all. I'm going to bring up the saturation just a little bit, see if that helps. Yeah, it gives us a bit more yellow and a bit more blue. Okay, so that's the sky looking more as I saw it that morning. Now I need to do the same with the foreground. Now the foreground is okay, we can see the detail, but it's a bit lacking in colour. So we come back up here on the right hand side to the adjustment brush, click that. That takes the other one away. It's still there, but hidden now. Click it again, and you'll see that if I click on it, I can use it again, but I don't want to click on it because I want to come down here, and I'm going to click down here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lighten this slightly, but I'm going to bang the saturation up. Now I know I say don't use the saturation too much, but in this particular case, because there's so little colour, I'm going to use it on full and see what happens. And all I'm going to do is just click and hold and paint over. Now what you'll see is down the sides of the path the grass has got much more colour, in fact too much colour, so I'm going to take it back a bit, and that's a bit better. So now we've got two dots here, we've got detail, we've got colour, but now I'll just want to make this path a little bit paler so that it leads the eye in better than it does at the present time. So what we'll do is go back up to the adjustment brush again, click once to remove it, click twice, and then come back down and click on the path. Now we've got the other two that we'd already done over here, but they're not affected because they don't have the dots in the middle, so it's only what we're going to affect. So we take the circle down a bit. Now what we want to do here is we've already got a quarter of a stop on the exposure there, so that might be enough. We'll just paint back in, drop the thing down, and once you've got it, you don't have to keep painting, because now you can either turn it right up, turn it right down, you can do what you want with it. and that is more or less what we want. Just that brightness to make it a little bit more apparent what we're doing. Just take it back a bit. So there you have it. That goes from the original here looking like that, and this is what we've ended up with.